Fourth hot take, I'm going to go into some controversial territory, a short segment on Dave Rubin, the well-known conservative commentator, and the fact that he and his husband, he's gay, are expecting a couple of children. This is awful. I hate talking about it in one sense. This is one thing that makes me really despair, and one thing that I struggle not to get just a little bit angered by, and it is the intentional raising of a child in an unnatural family structure, depriving the child of its mother, of its father, or both. There are support groups around the world for children who were adopted, or kids who were donor conceived, even in the best of families, who report lifelong pain and disturbance at their dislocated biological history, their lack of connection with their parents, and so forth. But you're not allowed to raise those very real emotional tolls, those very real troubles that young people face in relation to gay parenting or intentional single parenting, because it's not politically correct and it's unkind. I'll tell you, it is unkind, but it's unkind. Those structures are unkind to the children. Criticising them, if it's unkind to the parents, it's nothing compared to the unkindness to the children inflicted by those structures. I'm not saying that I'm against adoption, just to be clear, because it is restorative, as far as possible, of circumstances that have been deprived of a child, okay? So that's actually a restoration effort. But I am against everything that deliberately channels in the opposite direction, the intentional depriving of a child of their mother or their father or both, or a mother-father household, which is not only biological, it's not only the natural course of things, but it is right. It is a definition given by the Creator himself, who made that environment for children. And Dave Rubin, a very popular so-called conservative commentator, who also happens to be married to a man, has announced that they are expecting 2 children. What this means, of course, is that they have looked at a gallery of women, and he describes the process. They've chosen the one that they like the look of. They've sent donor sperm, and she is carrying a baby for them, ×2. So this is eugenics, this is soft eugenics. So it's using women for exploitative purposes. They must give up the child that they carried. And it's pretending that these babies have 2 dads, which they do not. Any more that Leah Thomas was a woman, these babies do not have 2 dads. These are not statements of fact. They are impossible by virtue of the simple truth and science of the situation. But apparently it's exciting, it's joyful, it's amazing, and it is worth celebrating. Well, you'll excuse me if I don't. It got me wondering, if I watch this and think to myself, this is horrendous. This is dreadful. I mean, I'm not married. It doesn't matter how much I want children. I will never have a child because it would be wrong unless there was some very, very, very unusual circumstance at play. Well, this is wrong because those children do not have 2 dads. And I think, why do I have that reaction? And why is it that when I look at these guys announcing what's going on, that they are so completely and profoundly blind to the wrongness of what they're doing? I think there can only be one answer. I think it must be self-righteousness. Let me explain. Rubin is convinced that this is his identity and that it defines him and that it must define his world in order for him to be fulfilled. But he is not convinced that what comes out of his heart, those things which are attached to what we now call in the modern age our identity, our inner person, could at all be wrong, sinful, or evil. Or that if we were to pursue and to follow what comes from the inner person, that could be the cause of us inflicting wrong, inflicting evil on other people. He doesn't believe that, although he believes in his identity. But hear the words of Jesus when he talks about that which we might pursue, which comes out of our identity and ourself. He says this, that which comes out of the person, this is in Mark's Gospel chapter 8, I think, that which comes out of the person is that which defiles the person. For it is from within, out of the hearts of people, come the evil thoughts, acts of sexual immorality, thefts, murders, acts of adultery, deeds of greed, wickedness, deceit, indecent behaviour, envy, slander, pride and foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile the person. Boy, that's a countercultural statement. What's the source of sin? It's not all the stuff out there in the society and the culture and the politics. Oh, no, it's this. And this is where the Christian ought to be Indeed, every true Christian should be and is so different. The Christian is the person who has realized that he is worse than he will ever truly know, that his sin runs deeper and controls him more profoundly than he can ever possibly imagine. And he needs not to live by his identity, but to live by the light and the holiness of Christ, which comes from outside of himself, and who alone liberates him from his identity and the evil that lurks within himself, and saves him not only from the burden of that on his own life, but of the burden that can be inflicted on the lives of others. Hence the two pillars of Christian conversion. Repentance toward God, that is the conviction of our sin, which is an act of God in today's world. Nobody believes they're a sinner or they're wrong. Self-righteousness reigns supreme. Oh no, but God can convict of sin, and he can cause a person to turn from it and renounce it. And then, of course, the second, faith, turning away from sin, turning to Christ and trusting wholly in him. That's so important. And the moral of the story is this. Mr. Rubin and his husband, and I wish them no harm, but my goodness, this challenges me. But the moral of the story is that, he may have said that he converted to conservatism some years ago. But getting people on the right political side in the right political trench will not save the world. Oh, no, no. Only God does that, who changes the heart in Jesus Christ. And self-righteousness will prevent us from ever embracing that, because Christ comes and does away with our self-righteousness. And may God keep us all. Let's not just focus on others for a second. Let's focus on ourselves, as we should always do. May God keep us all from underestimating the corruption of our own self and our own identity, and preserve us from unknowingly doing evil and inflicting it on others because we have become self-righteous.